There we go. And welcome everyone to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. It's 3 more days till Christmas. So I'm in a festive mood, so I wore my ugly sweater. But my name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of your hosts. To my right is the man who definitely did not slap the taste out of somebody's mouth on Sunday, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, although I did see somebody at the store with a Lions wig, and I almost wanted to. No, I'm joking. I'm doing fine, everybody. I'm doing fine. I'm excited to talk sports with you. I know we switched the day up a little bit, but whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day, a day that ends in Y, I'm always happy to get together and talk football with you and anyone else in the chat.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about this episode. We're switching it up today because Justin and I are doing we're doing a I don't know what we would call it, a production party tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe
of sorts. We're gonna take the night off on Tuesday. We're gonna enjoy some Seinfeld trivia because tomorrow is Festivus, and appropriately enough, in the local watering hole of mine, they're doing Seinfeld trivia. So we're going to enjoy a little bit of the holiday season before Thursday's festivities. And we're going to get things started in just a moment. But before we do that, we just want to remind you to please go ahead and follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. And you can also find our other podcasts and written content at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, you can hit the subscribe button and also listen wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and our host, which is Podbean, Freshly Brewed Podcasts. Hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube so you know when the shows go live, when we have general announcements about the show, and when we have clips of the show go up. I posted Dustin's explanation of his fantasy football team name on our YouTube channel yesterday. It posted yesterday morning. I put a little something special at the beginning.
I saw that.
Which I'm very done. Which we didn't get copyright stricken, which is nice. So
well, that's good. That's good.
I only used 10 seconds of the song, so you won't get struck for that. But yeah, go ahead and hit our YouTube channel. I got some stuff going on this week. I'll be recording a segment tomorrow at night with Gaz, a friend of the show. Gaz, we're going to do our annual tradition. A tradition unlike any other, of our top 5 national and local capital region sports stories for 2025. I'm also going to be on Wednesday afternoon. I will be on the air with Gaz from 12 to 2 on Fox Sports Radio Rochester 1280. It's available on your iHeart Radio app. So we're going to be live. He's been doing some guest spots for that radio station. He asked if I wanted to be a part of it, and I said, yeah, absolutely. Maybe just see if I can get some time off, and I did from work. So from 12 to 2 on Wednesday on Christmas Eve, you can enjoy my dulcet tones live with friend of the show, guys. Fox Sports 1280 Rochester, available on the iHeart Media app. Also, on the podcast side, rate, review, comment. Leave us a 5-star rating when you can. Review the show on platforms such as Podbean, which is our host, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Good Pods. You can also leave a comment in the comments section on our Spotify page. And also tomorrow, this will be on the Belly Up YouTube channel. You can leave a comment down there, your favorite moments of episode 16 or week 16 of the NFL, your not so favorite moments, what you think about the suspension we're going to talk about. Which dropped shortly before this show. Leave us a comment there. And we got some comments in the comment section already. Dustin, I know that it's a Monday, recording on a Monday, but I always seem to like it. It doesn't matter what day it is. It's always chime time somewhere.
Whether you have a case of the Mondays, that's a throwback, Ryan. But whether you have a case of the Mondays or you're feeling fine, it's always a good time for chime time.
It certainly is. We do have a comment in the comment section from your cohort from Seahawks Sessions. Kevin saying some playoff dreams died, but the Seahawks are alive and well.
Yeah, somewhat confoundingly, yes, because that's still. Let me just do a little bit of a teaser. My game of the year of the week already happened, but since that happened on Thursday, and I've already exhaustively recapped it on 2 shows, I picked another game, but it's the runner-up.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. So we're gonna get things started with our game of the year of the week in week 16. I'm gonna let my co-host share his his favorite game from week 16. And I know there's a game tonight between the 49ers and the Colts.
Yes.
We're kind of disregarding it, not because we don't care about it. It's just that Phillip Rivers might die tonight. So
could happen, but if that Colts O-line shows up like they did against the Seahawks, maybe they'll keep them upright. I'll probably turn on some after the show.
Right. So what was your game of the year of the week in 2016?
Well, Ryan, I remember I was texting you to see a little bit of how the sausage is made, everybody. Ryan and I do text throughout the football Sundays if we're not together watching the football. Yep. And I was texting you that there was a lot of good games this week. There was some back and forth battles. Even the Chargers Cowboys was close for a bit. The Dolphins Bengals, we thought it was going to be good, but then what I predicted would happen, one of the 2 outcomes did happen. Joe Burrow turned into a man and a monster, but you'll talk about him later in the show. My game, Ryan, was another divisional matchup. We had a great one with the Seahawks and Rams. The Bears-Packers played this weekend, and also the Bucks and Panthers. And let me tell you, I was in on this game. This is the one that I'm picking. You've been vocal about talking about the NFC South and how it could come down to the end of the season. Well, Here we are. And Bucks-Panthers, maybe it's a theme of the weekend because we'll get into why later, but this game had a theme of a boxing match to me, Ryan. We use that analogy quite a lot, but this game by the Panthers and the Bucks, first of all, shout out to the Panthers. This is the first time that they've played meaningful football in December in a very long time. And I think part of why I was so in on this game is you could just tell the atmosphere was great. They were keyed up. Panthers fans were ready for this one. But this was kind of like a boxing match in the fact that both teams hit each other with jabs in the form of field goals, and then they would respond with, sometimes a flurry of punches, maybe a trick play here and there, but then they would hit the haymakers for touchdowns. The Panthers opened the scoring with a field goal after a trick play. There we go, a flurry of punches. Yes, I am going to use this analogy. Maybe I watched the Netflix fight. Maybe I didn't. I didn't, everybody. But the end around 2 horn. But then the Bucks responded with a touchdown from Mayfield to Evans. Man, Mike Evans is as reliable as they come. It's always better when he is on the field. He plays with a fire that has not gone out. He plays with a lot of passions. Mike Evans, whenever he decides to hang it up, I'm going to remember fondly watching him play, and this game was no exception. And then there were a couple more field goals. Teams are back to the jabs. It was 10-6 Tampa. But then Bryce Young, he hit a beautiful uppercut on a moon ball, as my co-host on Seahawks Sessions, Dan, likes to say, and on a moon ball to Tetaroa McMillan. And they mentioned on the broadcast that the chemistry that's developing between Tetaroa McMillan and Bryce Young is not an accident. Bryce Young apparently advocated for the Panthers to draft Tetaroa McMillan, and they practiced in the offseason. They got together. They kind of learned how things were going. And it's 13-10 Panthers because that's how Carolina ended the half. I'm sorry. The Bucks then responded with a TD drive to open the third quarter, capped off by a Sean Tucker run, and the Panthers would respond with one of their own, another touchdown, another haymaker right before the end of the third. Also in this game, Baker Mayfield was picked off. It was a big interception. Baker's play, don't look now. he still did Baker's things. He scrambled to extend some drives. He was competitive like he always is, but his play has dropped off, as we've mentioned the last couple of weeks. And the teams traded field goals, and don't look now, but Bryce Young, he was able to engineer one more drive. He's got a lot of comeback drives. And don't look now, Ryan, but as I texted you, that Bryce Young pick is not looking as bad as it once did. And credit to Bryce Young and head coach Dave Canales. They seem to believe in each other. They're finding things. And even when Bryce was struggling, everybody in Carolina said what a good teammate he was, how professional he's been. Bryce Young is starting to do something here, Ryan. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, this is a team that has come a long, long way since I'd probably say 2 seasons ago, when they had, I think Frank Reich was their head coach, and some bumps in the road for Dave Canales, the head coach. Who came from Tampa Bay. He was our offensive coordinator before he joined the Carolina Panthers. Took that job. A lot of coaches, again, NFL coaches. Their coaching's trending younger. They're using more, or I would say, analytical guys to coach their team, to be not necessarily former players, but they're making the right moves. I give credit to Carolina, where credit to Carolina. Oh, I got some troll in the chat. God, Hey, Snowman checking in. How about those 49ers? Go away.
Well, we'll see how they are tonight, Snowman. We'll see how they are tonight.
It seems like every show I watch now is like, let's talk about these 49ers. How resilient are they? I'm like, dude, get a new act.
It is true, though. I mean, they're getting healthy at the right time.
I'll give them credit. I'm only joking with Snowman.
Yeah. They're getting healthy.
New material.
They are resilient, but I said it, Snowman, and you probably agree with me. NFC West, best division in football. I'm saying it. I've been saying it for the season, and I'm saying it now. You got 3 teams that have more than 10 wins. Pretty good.
Except for Arizona. They're
done. Oh, that's right.
That's another story. Hey, they were my friends and family game of the weekend. Boy, was I great, and that was fun in that prediction. Although your friends and family pick was looking pretty solid for a bit, for a pretty good game, and all of a sudden Joe Burrow took over, and we'll talk about him in a mere few moments. My game of the year of the week of week 16, and Snowman's going to turn the channel as soon as I mention this. Packers versus Bears.
Oh man, I almost picked this, Ryan. It was a great one.
I picked this one because I didn't watch this game. I was pretty much footballed out by the time, because look, I watched Texas A&M Miami. I watched Tulane Ole Miss. I was all footballed out by 8:00 on Saturday night. So I checked in here and there on the score line for this game, and it's 13-3 when I last saw it. I went to bed. Basically went to bed. Like, all right, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. And I wake up the next morning. I see the Bears had beaten the Packers in overtime. And I was like, all right, I'm going to watch the highlights. So I'm watching the highlights, and I got to talk about this game. The Packers. Talk about this Packers defense first. Packers defense, they were doing great for the first 3 quarters of this game. Relatively stifling the run for the Bears, and the Bears' run game is their strong suit. Let's not lie. We're talking about Caleb Williams. Yes, we talk about him, but I compare him comparatively. It's like another Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez, the first 2 years of his career, was helped by a great running game for the 2009, 2010 Jets. Had LaDainian Tomlinson, had Thomas Jones in the backfield, had Sean Green, a rising star, had some great receivers, Braylon Edwards, Santonio Holmes, Dustin Keller as his tight end, as his safety valve tight end, had a great offensive line in front of him. But let's talk a little bit more about this team. Packers defense, they're doing everything in their power very, very early in this game. They stifled the Bears' offensive attack, particularly the run. They held the Bears' running game pretty well in this game. But the Bears' defense, they were equal to the task in more ways than you can count. anytime the Packers got inside Bears territory, the Bears would repel them. 6 times. 6 times. 6 times. I won't say it again. The Packers offense got inside the Bears 20. They held the Packers to 6 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should say 9 points. I'm sorry. 9 points.
Sorry.
My apologies. Because that touchdown was a 33-yard touchdown in the third quarter. But they kept the Bears defense doing their job, keeping the Packers off the board. Defense, the most turnovers in the league. They got another turnover in this game. And there were 2 turning points in this game. The first was Jordan Love's unfortunate concussion that he suffered in the second quarter. Booker had got in there, thrown him to the ground, got a penalty, and Jordan Love didn't come back in the game. I will say I give a lot of credit to Malik Willis, backup quarterback. Whenever Love is injured, he's plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it last year when Love had his knee injury that he suffered in Sao Paulo, in week 1 on the first Friday. Malik Willis filled in admirably. He led him to 2 wins in that span, and he had played pretty effectively on Saturday night as well. Passed a touchdown to Romeo Doubs. But the other turning point, with less than 2 minutes left in the game, Bears had just scored a touchdown, and they had to go for an onside kick. Coming into this game, you want to know what the percentage of conversion for onside kicks was this season?
Oh man, I can't remember, but it was something infinitesimal.
It was a little bit more than 8%. And the crew at Fox Sports, Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, they mentioned it before. I think it was either before or during the onside kick, or during the whole scramble for the recovery. Yeah. Bears recover. They go on the field. Caleb Williams throws a touchdown to seldom used wide receiver Jahdae Walker. And the Bears did it again. They stuffed the Packers inside their own. They stuffed the Packers inside their own 20. 4 plays later, Williams throws that beautiful deep ball, and DJ Moore with arguably the catch of the year, over the shoulder diving catch, walk-off game winner. Soldier Field crowd goes wild, because I think that was only the second time in 15 games at Soldier Field that the Bears had beaten the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch this full game, Ryan, because I had some family plans, and I initially thought I was going to miss the football. I thought I was going to miss everything, but I got home, and I, unlike you, did not watch any of the college games, and so I watched the pro games. But this is why we're co-hosts. We pick each other up here. Yep. But that DJ Moore catch is even more unbelievable when you realize how tired he was. He was so tired it was crazy. He was so tired that he didn't line up. He had gotten called for a penalty. I can't remember if it was I think it was in the 4th, because the Bears were trying to clock the ball because they had no timeouts and they had to hustle. And I think it was when they were trying to get Santos out there for a field goal. And he was just gassed, and he lined up in the neutral zone because he wasn't quite on his spot, because he was just so tired. So to see him make that catch and then fall backwards, I mean, I think that was genuine. You know, what a way to finish that game.
Yeah, and incredibly, the Bears, they can clinch the NFC North next weekend with a win over the 49ers and a Packers loss against Baltimore, and they actually still have a shot of clinching home field too. They're only a game behind your Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
for the number one seed in the NFC. Seattle still got to face 49ers, and they also have to face Carolina next week. Their last 2 games of the season are away games. So, it's going to be for the Bears, it's going to be a tough task, but also for the Seahawks, it's going to be a tough task. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about the playoff picture in a few moments. But first, we're going to mention we're going to actually hit to the comments section because I'm seeing a name we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
The Pink Hand of Sapna is back saying sports ball. Thank you, Sapna, for joining us. We appreciate you. All right, we're going to move on to our biggest upsets of week 16. And for me, I don't know about you, Dustin, but that Jaguars team over the Broncos, man, that was to me, that was the biggest upset week 16. And I'll explain why. You got two teams coming in on winning streaks, coming in this game on winning streaks. It was going to be a matter of which team was going to play better than the other. And I think we found out who these teams are. Yeah. Jaguars played significantly better in this game against the Broncos. That leaves me two questions. A, are the Broncos frauds? And B, I know I've talked about MVP candidates in the past in this episode, in previous episodes.
Yeah.
And forgive me for sounding outlandish for presenting another MVP candidate. Is Trevor Lawrence an MVP candidate? Let me present my evidence.
All right.
He showed a lot of poise in this game. He was sacked 5 times by the Broncos. All right. Broncos defense, they're doing their job. They're getting at the quarterback. They're getting after the quarterback. They're going to break that 85 Bears sack record. I think.
I think so, yeah.
And if I'm looking at the stats,
they were in the 60s heading into that. They were at 60 heading into that game, and I think the Bears, what do they had, 72?
They're at 63 currently.
Okay.
And the Bears had 72. So they have 2 more games to get to 72. Denver plays. They're at Kansas City on Christmas night, and they host the Chargers, which could be for the AFC West if the Broncos lose at Kansas City on Christmas. But back to this game. And look, Trevor Lawrence showing great poise, and some more stats I'm going to throw at you. Since his awful performance in Arizona, where he threw 3 touchdowns, but also threw 3 interceptions in that overtime win, Trevor Lawrence has passed for over 1,000 yards. He has passed for 10 touchdowns. He has committed 0 turnovers since that performance. And mind you, this has been in his last 4 games, and he's only played 15 quarters because he didn't play the 4th quarter against the Jets last week. He was pulled for their backup after he scored a total of 6 touchdowns, 5 passing, 1 rushing. Also had a rushing touchdown in this game. The Jaguars defense, they kept the Broncos offense on their toes. And again, we have to wonder if Bo Nix got exposed in this game. He's been playing awfully well the last however many weeks they have.
Yeah.
In the last, I think 13 weeks, they went a 13 or 13 game winning streak. And we got to wonder if Bo Nix is truly the guy in Denver. The Jaguars defense, they forced 2 turnovers from him. And for a large part of the game, they kept the Broncos run game to a minimum. And the Broncos had a lot of miscues in this game. Bo Nix, 2 turnovers, had a fumble and an interception. They also missed a field goal early, which gave the Jaguars the opportunity to drive the field and take a 7-0 lead. The Jaguars are a sneaky Super Bowl candidate, especially after this game. And we got a comment in the comment section here from Monfina saying, Liam Cohen has Lawrence taking more sacks rather than throwing it away. Holding on to it is safer. I wouldn't necessarily agree with you there. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is mobile enough to get out of the pocket. If he has to throw it away, he has to throw it away. But yeah, if you're a Jaguars fan, you're saying this today. Duval.
And you are saying that, Ryan, because you're
never going to let that die. Never. Even if the Jaguars win the Super Bowl, it will never die.
Yeah, we never should. It never will. But man, Ryan, and spoiler, I do not have another pick for this. And for all the reasons that you laid out, this was the biggest upset. I picked against you in this game, partially for the yuck yucks, but also because I thought also because I thought that the Broncos defense would be too much for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars at times, because we saw the Seahawks shut them down, and a few teams, and the Seahawks do not have nearly as many sacks as the Broncos. The Broncos are leading the league in the category going away, the last I checked at it. But there's something about this Jacksonville team. You are correct, and I'm not going to expound on the reasons that you did, Ryan, but I just thought that the Broncos would find a way to pull it out. I mean, they did. They did it against the Giants, but I should have remembered when I picked the Broncos, they struggled against your Jets in London too, and then they had something. But I just thought that even when the Broncos fell behind, I said, okay, they got a chance because they're gonna get some defensive stops. But you know who they weren't able to stop very well in this game at all? Parker Washington was big, setting the Jags up with some good field position. And so, I mean, for all the reasons you laid out. Now, I could go back to Thursday's game. I'm not big enough to admit. To me, that was the biggest upset of the week just because of how improbable it was after the way the Rams played and outplayed the Seahawks in key categories. But again, I won't talk about that game, even though I'll be talking about it for a long time because it's one of the best Seahawks games I can remember. But this was the biggest upset, Ryan. This was the one that shocked me. I mean, like I said, I picked the Broncos because I was confident that they would win and I would be able to gain some ground on you in the challenge. But it didn't happen for me because the Jags, they pulled off the biggest upset of the week.
Yeah, and we would have had a bigger upset, not if the Raiders didn't poop the bed, but they're doing it on purpose. I'll talk about that.
No, man, I had my fingers on the pulse. I was going to be like, oh, man, I got to pick the Raiders. I got to give them my biggest upset because I've been all over them this season.
I mean, it's not necessarily because of our competition that's going on. I had eye on that game because, of course, the New York Jets are behind the Las Vegas Raiders for the higher draft seed. So every Jets fan I know is probably tuning into that game or tuning in the red zone to see the outcome of that game, to see if the Raiders could pull off that upset. And it was looking really close for a while because the Raiders were up 14-13. But unfortunately, they couldn't hold the lead, although they made it a game. Ashton Jeanty finally hit him off the ball, and he's getting some runs in. So, but we got 2 weeks remaining in the season. And there's still a lot of draft implications that are going to be decided. There's going to be a lot of playoff seedings that are also going to be decided as well, which leads us to our biggest disappointment of Week 16. I'll take this one. I'll lead off with this one. DK Metcalf. What are you doing, buddy? What are we doing? And initially, I put that in our show rundown again. Talking about how the sausage is made. We do a rundown. Put our thoughts in a Google Doc before we go on air, just so we have some coherence. And I had written in parentheses, although I'll reserve judgment on him allegedly punching a fan until we get the full story. Well, we have multiple angles of what happened in Detroit between DK Metcalf and a Detroit Lions fan on Sunday. And we saw during that game, Metcalf approached a Lions fan in the crowd at Ford Field. The two exchanged words, and video evidence shows not only in the CBS feed, but also there's a fan who had videoed this particular incident and posted it on Instagram from another angle. And it shows Metcalf grabbing the fan and then shoving him away. And it appeared that he looked like he was getting ready to punch the fan too. Now, it was reported just before we went on air, probably about half an hour before, or maybe an hour before we went on air, that Tom Pelissero scooped everyone and said that the NFL had suspended Metcalf for the final 2 games of the season without pay. And of course, the NFLPA is going to appeal, but even with an appeal, he still has to serve 1 game. Has to serve a game even through the appeal process, which means he won't be in the game against Baltimore for the Steelers on Sunday afternoon. That's going to be a huge game because that AFC North division is still wide open. And what a dumb thing to do, knowing that your team is in a race for a playoff berth. I'm sorry, but also not sorry because, again, I don't know what was said by this fan to make DK Metcalf react in the fashion that he reacted it. But I'm hoping that this is a lesson that other players will say, that other players will see that if the fan says something and if you don't like it, just walk away or just point and laugh and whatnot.
Yeah.
But again, once again, it's another player fan incident that just got ugly and was caught on tape, not only on a national broadcast, but also by a fan in the crowd with their cell phone posting it on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could come up with something else for this, but I knew as soon as it happened. I wrote it down in my notes. It's the biggest disappointment. It's the biggest disappointment. And there are a lot of Seahawk fans that are like, oh, this is why we traded him, blah, blah, blah. You know, a lot of things are being said about DK Metcalf right now, but where some of the Seahawk fans that are saying these type of things are right is DK had a fiery temper. Even in his time in Seattle, there was never an incident like this, but there were incidents where he would get too mad at the refs. He'd kind of lose his cool, and he would get penalties. He would get penalties on big drives, and things like this would happen. And apparently, the team told him at different times, you got to get your anger in check. You know, you can't let it affect the team like this. Well, this is, and I mean, hey, a lot of Seahawks fans are happy that JSN has blossomed into the receiver that he has blossomed into. But DK, outside of a little bit of lack of usage, he's big for the Steelers when they actually throw him the deep ball. And like you said, Ryan, this cannot happen. You cannot lose your cool like this. I realize everybody's human, and like you said, we don't know what was said by the fan to Metcalf, although I saw some things on the internet that were saying, oh, he just called him by his legal name. But those are probably, unfounded, shall we say, because the internet is the internet and people are just trying to trying to generate some clicks. But, you know, it's almost, and I understand it. And this is a statement as old as time. Everybody is human, but in a profession where you are paid to play a sport that is being broadcast, it comes with the territory. I know I probably sound insensitive, and let me say, fans cross the line sometimes. Fans cross the line, and they say things that they have no business saying, and they say things because they think that nothing is going to happen to them. But DK, you cannot react like this. Cameras are everywhere, especially in this day and age. And you said it, Ryan, it's going to cost the team. The Steelers are in the midst of a playoff race, and now they won't have their number one receiver. But like I said, this is not the first time. DK's temper got him in trouble in Seattle, although it was never with anything like this. But this is why Seahawk fans are saying what they're saying. It's because he used to get a lot of penalties when he'd get too fired up. And obviously, we saw him in that game. He had a couple drop passes right after that. Clearly, his head was not in the game, which I would imagine there was some regret there. But it also, he just was not the same after that. Although I think most people wouldn't be. They'd be a little rattled, maybe because they're like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. Or maybe if the fan said something really terrible, he was still thinking about it. Who knows? But either way, you cannot react like this. I'm sorry. It comes with the territory. You got to be prepared. And like you said, just if the fan says something really bad, point them out to security and be like, hey,
And your cohort from Seahawks Sessions, Kevin, saying, it's a shame DK isn't on the Seahawks. Good riddance to him.
I've seen a lot of that sentiment. I mean, I'm not gonna. DK was a great player when he was there, but the way he left town was kind of a little rocky. And also, like I said, I don't miss the penalties. I'm going to be honest about that. But he made some great plays. I'm not going to act like he didn't. But yeah, this is you can't react like this.
Nope. No, you cannot. All right, that's going to lead into our network mandated commercial break. We're going to tell you about our affiliate sponsor for this episode, which is Royal Retros, the king of throwbacks. Remember when jerseys were bold, mustaches were glorious, and shorts were way too short? Good news, you can bring back all that retro magic minus the chafing with Royal Retros. They've got vintage style football, baseball, basketball, and hockey apparel that screams, I was born in the wrong era, but I looked amazing. Rock a jersey that makes people say, wait, isn't that from insert decade here? Yes, it is. And you look fantastic. Head over to royalretros.com. Use promo code CREDHEAD at checkout for 10% off your order. That's CREDHEAD, CREDHEAD, like a fan of our show with excellent taste in throwbacks. Royal Retros, the king of throwbacks. Again, royalretros.com. Use promo code CREDHEAD at checkout. You get 10% off your order plus free shipping for every order over $100 or more. And Royal Retros is the presenting sponsor for our Cut the Breaks Pick'em Challenge, which we'll get to in just a moment. But we're going to talk about our Week 16 peak performers. These are their individual performances that stood out to us. And I'm going to let my co-host Dustin lead off with his peak performer in Week 16.
All right. Well, I've got two that I'm going to talk about this week, and it's me.
Okay.
It's me. So it's another week, another running back, y'all. Petey's back.
Petey's back.
But here's the thing. This is a running back that I have been critical of on this show for most of the season, but he had a heck of a game, and and I'm talking about one Saquon Barkley. Barkley was very good for the Eagles in this game, which a lot of people, you see that final score and you're thinking, the Eagles ran away with this one. No, the Commanders kept it competitive, surprisingly competitive for a little bit there.
I think they had a lead at one point.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And they were injured. Their defense is beat up. Their whole team is beat up, although Bobby Wagner's still a tackling machine out there. But I've been very critical of Saquon this year, but it's time to give him his flowers because he had himself a game. It's 21 carries, 132 rush yards, and a TD. This, to me, proves that he is the true engine of their offense. This is the closest the Eagles have looked to the Eagles of last year. They look like a different offense, although, like I mentioned, the Commanders' defense is banged up, but they kept it close early. But when Saquon is going, the Eagles look like the Eagles. They got AJ Brown involved early, but Saquon, he was really the engine in this one that kind of turned it around for the Eagles and turned it into a blowout. Also, Marcus Mariota getting hurt did not help. But on that topic, the shout out that I want to give to the second player, you mentioned him already, Ryan, Malik Willis. He was very good, 9 of 11 for 121 yards and a TD in relief of Jordan Love. He kept them in that game. He had them leading that game. He also threw in 10 carries for 44 yards. Can he make some of the throws that Jordan Love can? No, he can't, but his legs is where he can bring another aspect that Green Bay doesn't necessarily have with Love under center. And to come in cold and do what he did is really impressive. And like you mentioned, Ryan, he found a home in Green Bay. He really, they got to hang on to him because clearly there's a backup quarterback problem in the NFL. Not every backup quarterback is quality, but it appears that Malik Willis is.
Yeah, I took a quick peek at that Commanders-Eagles game, and the Eagles had gone up, and I had seen Marcus Mariota. He had gone to the sideline. It looked like he had tweaked the groin or tweaked the hamstring or whatever. I thought to myself, all right, he's going to be out of the game. But it was later reported that he was in concussion protocol. And then a little bit later, you see some footage of a towel on his right throat, on his right hand, where I guess one of his teammates must have stepped on it. I'm thinking to myself, man, football really is like getting in a car crash, because you can sustain all those injuries in a car crash.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that Josh Johnson, they did bring in Josh Johnson.
No, I saw that because I was watching the game and I was like, wait, who's at quarterback?
Josh Johnson. Yes, the Josh Johnson, who has played for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 NFL teams. That includes my New York Jets in 2021. His best performance as a Jet was the game against Indianapolis, where it was the week after Mike White had his game against the Bengals. Then he broke his thumb against the Colts, and Josh Johnson came in and served in relief and had a pretty decent game. And then the Jets released him the next week, which shows you the cruel nature of the NFL and how, like I said, it's just bodies everywhere. My peak performer in week 16. Let's talk about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, after a garbage week last week against the Baltimore Ravens, in which his team was absolutely pounded into the dirt by the Baltimore Ravens and shut out, as you mentioned, as my co-host mentioned last week, the first time in the Joe Burrow era that the Bengals were shut out.
Yeah.
So what does he do this week? Travels to Miami. Thinking, okay, this is a tank bowl situation. They're going to tank. Both teams are ready to throw in the towel. Joe Burrow is playing Quinn Ewers, who's on the other side of the ball for the Dolphins. And what does Joe Burrow do? He goes 25 of 32 for 309 yards and 4 passing touchdowns in 3 quarters.
Oh, man. Wow.
It got so bad for the Dolphins that he was pulled in the fourth quarter to let his backup, Joe Flacco, get some reps in the fourth quarter to keep him fresh, just in case, you need to put him in there. The Dolphins, I gotta say, they're partially my biggest disappointment, because they were cowards for not letting Zach Wilson get in some reps when the score was way out of control. By the end of the third quarter, was 45-14. At the half, it was 14-13 in favor of the Dolphins. Let me just double check my
I think so.
Double check real quick. And I'm sorry, it was 17-14 Bengals at the end of the half. They got a quick turnover. They scored 21 points in that quarter, and they didn't look back. And Joe Burrow, they figured, all right, Zach Taylor's like, all right, we'll keep you fresh for the next game when you'll just get your stats up for any prospective trade offers in the off season. Great game. And I was begging the Dolphins on Twitter, put Zach Wilson in, you cowards, because they allowed Zach Wilson to kneel against the Jets when they played the Jets at MetLife a few weeks ago. But you can't bother to put him in a game that was complete throwaway when Quinn Ewers is not having a great performance in his first NFL start. He looked lost a lot of times out there. Which is interesting that they were playing each other this week, because there was a story that was released on either ESPN or Fox. I think it was ESPN. The Dolphins had actually offered 4 first-round picks for Joe Burrow in 2020.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. Man, 4 first-round picks.
What might have been if owner Mike Brown said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Imagine the fortunes of both franchises being reversed. But then again, like the Bengals, the Dolphins have an absolute dog's breakfast of an O-line. So I don't think his career might have stayed the same. But hey, for at least 8 games, maybe 9 games in a season, don't have to pay income tax. But I'm curious to see what happens to Burrow in the offseason, because there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, and including my team. But Joe Burrow, outstanding performance in only 3 quarters in week 16. Which leads us to our biggest takeaways from week 16. I'm going to start off with this one. As the episode title states, Some teams' playoff dreams died this week. Entering this week, several teams are still in the hunt for a playoff berth, including the Dallas Cowboys, who had golden chances in previous weeks after their win against the Eagles a few weeks ago. They had a chance to run the table, and this was following their big win over the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. Had a great chance to run the table against inferior opponents coming up. And what do? They continually shot themselves in the foot against Detroit, against Minnesota, and again this week against the Los Angeles Chargers, who are now only one game behind the Broncos for first place in the AFC East. And I had the Chargers winning the AFC West. Excuse me. I predicted the Chargers would win the AFC West this season. So my prediction, Damas might get another one,
maybe.
But as the weeks we're starting to see as the weeks progress, as we get towards the end of the season, we're going to see a lot of this playoff picture, which is currently kind of muddled, is going to become clear this week, as starting with Thursday's Christmas games. There's only two teams really in contention for a playoff berth still in those two games, or one team's already clinched a playoff berth. Denver's already clinched a playoff berth. They're playing Christmas night against Kansas City. Detroit still in playoff contention by the very slim margin. They play Minnesota on Thursday, and the other game is Cowboys versus Commanders. Both teams are out of it, so who cares about that game? But in addition to the playoff picture getting still kind of muddled, you could argue the same for the draft position. Seeing as how some coaches, talking to you, Aaron Glenn, talking to you, Pete Carroll, they are in full tank mode, but they will not admit to such. Especially Aaron Glenn, who put in Brady Cook as his starting quarterback, had a decent first half, and then absolutely just got buried in the second half against the Saints. And I guess you could argue the same for Pete Carroll, although we don't know if he'll have a job at the end of the season, knowing how the Raiders are doing. And the Raiders are currently number 2 in the draft order, and the Jets are number 4 in the draft order. And draft order, both teams needing quarterbacks in the draft. It's going to be so important going into week 17, excuse me. The next 2 weeks are going to be very, very crucial for not only the near future, but the future down the road. The near future being the playoffs, and the future down the road for the NFL draft, which is in late April. So that is my biggest takeaway from week 16. Dustin, what is yours?
Well, Ryan, mine changed because I texted you during the Sunday's games. I was thinking to myself, man, there's a lot of good games going on. And we had Seahawks versus Rams. We had Bears Packers. That was a great one. We had the aforementioned Panthers Bucks. We had, like I said, Cowboys Chargers was close for a while. I'm thinking to myself, and I was going to write some sunny soliloquy about how the quality of football in the NFL, it's been kind of upside down this year. We're going to have some new teams in the playoffs. What a year of football. There's going to be some variation of that. And then Sunday night happened. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but how much of last night's loss in Baltimore is on John Harbaugh, because Derrick Henry was running all over the Patriots, okay? They couldn't stop him. He had 128 yards in this game. He had 2 touchdowns. Additionally, Lamar Jackson went down in this game, and Tyler Huntley was in there. And he was doing okay, but he's not Lamar Jackson back there, okay? And what happened is, on the final drive of the game, now, both Zay Flowers, there were some miscues, okay? There were some miscues by the players, and we said the whole thing, the players got to play. Derrick Henry fumbled earlier in that game, but he ran very, very well after that. He rebounded from that. Zay Flowers would fumble on the final drive while Baltimore was ultimately trying to win the game. But here's the thing. You know who wasn't in for that final drive? Derrick Henry, Ryan.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry was not in for that final drive. And I'm thinking to myself, this is your season. for all intents and purposes. I mean, the AFC North is the AFC North this year. It's a crazy division, but you needed this win, okay? You needed it. And when asked after the game why Derrick Henry was not in the game on that final drive when you're trying to win, and keep in mind, Lamar Jackson is out. He has not come back to the game. He is hurt. And Derrick Henry is supposed to be your bell cow running back, one of the people that you allow to put the team on his back and get a victory for you. Keaton Mitchell was in that game on the final drive. And when asked about it after the game, John Harbaugh said rotation. Rotation. We've been playing that rotation for weeks. Keaton Mitchell's been doing a good job of closing things out for us. He's looked good. You go to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry says Keaton's looked good when he's touched the ball. He's been doing a great job. He deserves his touches too. Of course, Derrick Henry's going to say that because Derrick Henry is a professional. But John Harbaugh, your season is kind of on the line here in a victory that you needed against the Patriots that would have gone a long way. And oh, by the way, you were leading in this game. You were leading. And you don't have Derrick Henry in there on the final drive when you're trying to come back to win the game with time left on the clock. Keaton Mitchell's in at running back. What are you doing? And your answer is rotation? Okay.
Yeah, got a buddy of mine in the comments section, my buddy Pooh, checking in from upstate New York. He says there's something. He's a Ravens fan, big Ravens fan, because he's also a big University of Miami, Florida fan. A lot of those players came from a lot of the players from the early 2000s team that has such a dominant defense. They came together from the University of Miami. He says there's something wrong with the play calling. He also says hard to understand what Jim Harbaugh said.
Yeah.
In terms of what you said about the rotation. It's like, no. You put your best players out there to give it the best chance to win.
Yeah.
It sounds like he just didn't.
Yeah. And then he admitted, he's like, I'd like to have that drive. I didn't like the drive at all. Should I have had Derrick in there? Probably. But he's like, rotation. I'm like, come on, man. Come on. And I have nothing against John Harbaugh. He's a great coach, but I just think I think it's one of those cases where his time in Baltimore has come to an end. It's lining up for me. I mean, people are saying it's not going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if his time is coming to an end in Baltimore, there's going to be a lot of teams lining up as soon as the paper hits the floor.
For sure.
They're going to be knocking on his door. I wonder if my team is going to be one of those teams, but probably not, because they've already said we're not there. The Jets have already said that we're not even interested in releasing him. It's like, come on. But I mean, hey, it could be in silver and black next year. You don't know.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on we got 2 more segments left before the end of the show. We're going to talk about this week's results and our Cut the Breaks Pick'em Challenge.
Because I cut the breaks! Wild card, bitches! Yeah! What?
And here are your results. I picked correctly the Eagles, the Bills, although it was close for a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess the tough game against the Browns of all teams. And I hit my upset pick, so I get the bonus point. The Jaguars beating the Broncos. For Dustin, his pick of the Texans landed. Broncos did not, but he got the bonus point for his upset pick for the Panthers, which means that I'm up by 4 because I had 4 points. Dustin had 3 points. So I'm up by 4 now. It was a 3-point lead going into week 16. It is now a 4-point lead going into week 17. 2 more weeks remaining. Can Dustin catch up, or will I pull away for some merch from Royal Retros, our presenting sponsor for the Cut the Breaks Pick'em Challenge? Again, Royal Retros, King of Throwbacks. Go to royalretros.com. Use promo code CREDHEAD at checkout. You get 10% off your order, plus free shipping for every order over $100 or more. That's going to do it for this week's Cut the Breaks Pick'em challenge.
Because I cut the brakes! Wild card, bitches! Yeah! What?
All right, our last segment for the night. Our favorite athletes to wear the number 94. And I'm going to start. Actually, you know what? Dustin, I'm going to have you start off here. We've been talking about this player. You've been talking about this player. You said, I really hope we get to number 90. Hope we get to episode 94 this year. And I said, I'm like, all right, I'm going to count it out. And we counted it out. And I said, we're going to get to episode 94 during Christmas week. And here we are. We've been champing at the bit for quite some time for number 94. And here we are. So I'm going to give you the floor. So your favorite athlete to wear number 94 is?
Man, well, you know this answer, but for those of you who don't, I'm going to need the Homer alert button.
Homer alert?
Because my favorite number 94, one of his nicknames was Captain Canada, but the other, and also Smitty, but the other was the mullet. And that's why, because he rocked the mullet for his entire 19-year career, I believe. He played in the NHL. That's right. I'm going hockey for my Edmonton Oilers. It's number 94, Ryan Smyth. He was drafted 6th overall in the NHL entry draft in 1994 by the Edmonton Oilers. He played in 1,270 career games. He had 386 goals, 456 assists, and 842 career points. Have there been better offensive players? Certainly. But the reason that I am spotlighting Mr. Smyth is that he played with such grit and determination throughout his career that it was hard not to look up to him. At least I know I did. He was reacquired. He started his career in Edmonton and then was famously traded in 2007. It was a sad day for Edmontonians, although I remember I watched his press conference, which I'll get into briefly, and one of my friends at the time said, "Oh, come on, it's not like he's Gretzky." And I'm like, hey, man, you don't rude. Yeah, you don't understand what Ryan Smyth meant to the Oilers. He was the heart of the Oilers. He loved playing for the Oilers. His basement was painted Oilers colors. But to me, this is what personified Ryan Smyth, and this is how he attacked his entire career. During the second round of the magical 06 Cup run, we didn't win it, but that was the 8 seed run all the way to the Stanley Cup final against the Carolina Hurricanes. In the second round against the San Jose Sharks, he was hit in the mouth with a puck as a result of a clearing attempt by Chris Pronger. He lost 3 teeth on that, and he needed stitches. He returned in the third period to the game. He got the stitches, and he came back, and he set up Sean Horkoff's game-winning goal in triple overtime. All right? Smyth gets hit in the mouth, loses 3 teeth, and he goes, "Stitch me up. I'm going back in there." Also, after that deadline deal to the Islanders in 07, he played the remainder of the season with the Islanders, but he finished tied for the Oilers in point scoring that year. Ugh. Peter Sikora had 53 points in 82 full games for the Oilers. Ryan Smyth had 53 points in a season divided, his season, which was cut short after the Oilers traded him because they did not want, there was contract negotiations. They couldn't come to a deal, and the Oilers management did not want to lose Smyth for nothing. But man, they did reunite. Smyth retired as an Oiler. The Kings traded him there in 2012, I believe. I believe he wrapped up his career in 2014. But yeah, there's better offensive players. There's people with more assists out there. But Ryan Smyth played with heart, determination, and he just was somebody that you could count on, that he was going to give his best, and he was a heads-up hockey player, man. I remember his first game for the Islanders. He noticed that the goal was coming loose on a play. He picked it up and set it back in one of the posts in, so that a goal that would later be scored counted, because the goal was still in place. He picked it up and set it back in. He was such a smart hockey player. I loved watching him play.
Great pick.
No,
I know how much you meant to your Oilers fandom, especially back in 2006. And great pick. Yeah, I know you've been looking forward to this episode for all of 2025.
Yeah.
Like, I hope we get to 94.
Yeah.
We're here.
He just is somebody I looked up to for a long time. And man, he was awesome.
All right. My favorite number 94. I almost picked John Abraham from the Jets, but he was only on the team for a couple seasons before he was traded to Atlanta. And I think I already mentioned him in a previous episode. Or maybe it was Sean Ellis. I can't remember which one of those two defensive linemen from the Jets from way back in the day. But I went with a guy we recently talked about on our Thanksgiving episode, Charles Haley.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Great pick.
Drafted in the 4th round of the 1986 draft, 98th overall by San Francisco out of James Madison University, who was in Division I AA at the time. 12 sacks in his rookie season, establishing himself as a terrorizing edge rusher in the National Football League. Defensive Player of the Year in 1990 and 1994. In 1990, he had 16 sacks and also led the league in forced fumbles with 5. Spent his first seasons with the 49ers, won 2 Super Bowls with the Niners in Super Bowls 22 and 23 before signing with the Dallas Cowboys in free agency. Famously documented in that Netflix series, The Gambler, Jerry Jones and his Cowboys. It's a famous story of how Charles Haley became a Dallas Cowboy, and he helped the Dallas Cowboys win 3 more Super Bowls in Super Bowl 27, 28, and 30, bridging 2 dynasties, because the 49ers had won Super Bowl 29. He retired after the 1996 season. Then he came out of retirement, signed with the 49ers, played 2 more seasons in 98 and 99. He finished his career in 1999, finished with 100.5 career sacks, including 11 in the playoffs. And he shares the record in career sacks in the Super Bowl with Von Miller with 4.5. And he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2015. One of my previous numbers, number 81, also in that draft class, Tim Brown. And we also mentioned the other players in that episode. You can go back to episode 81 of this year and we talked about Tim Brown. I talked about Tim Brown. That's my favorite number 81. So Charles Haley, my favorite number 94.
Man, he's a good pick. And what a defensive terror he was.
Oh my goodness.
And I think, Brian, if you go back to the in the documentary, I think it was Switzer that basically said, "Hey, Charles, we need you because the defense is not the same without you. The whole team is not the same without you."
And that was after he had a bipolar. He noted in his documentary he has bipolar, and he's a huge mental health advocate for football players during and after their careers. And he noted the bipolar episode he had where he just went nuts in the training room. And he says, I don't remember a thing. I don't remember a thing until I got home. And all of a sudden, Barry Switzer's at my door, and he's telling me that he's disappointed in me because of how I acted. And from there on out, I took my medication. I was trying to be a model citizen in that locker room. And to his credit, he was. And also with Charles Haley, he had that neck, the neck sleeve, famous for having that neck sleeve around his neck to protect his neck from harm. So great career, great man. Over 100, one of only a handful of players that have over 100 sacks in his career, and Charles Haley, one of the best edge rushers in the 80s into the 90s, and again, well deserved for Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, We want to wish everyone watching or listening a Merry Christmas if you observed, and also if you observe Hanukkah or other holidays. Happy Hanukkah, happy other holidays to you. We sincerely, I mean, like I said, I'm in a festive mood, so I'm wearing my Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, ugly sweater. So, but us here, no credentials required. We want to wish you and your family and your loved ones a very Merry Christmas. We'll be back on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. But before we do that, before we get out of here, just want to remind you one more time to follow us. Follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. You can also find our other podcasts and written articles at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe on your preferred platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and our podcast host, which is Podbean, Freshly Brewed Podcasts. Hit that notification bell on Twitter and YouTube so you know when shows go live, so you know when announcements go up, and you know when clips from our show go up on there as well. Thank you again for joining us on No Credentials Required, the Monday edition, special Monday edition of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Merry Christmas. We'll be back on Saturday talking about all of Thursday's games, and we'll be previewing Week 17. We're almost at the end of the season. Week 17 is right around the corner. Starting on Thursday with the triple header on Christmas. We're talking about those games. We'll be reviewing what is stand out to us in Week 17. So join us then, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Replay on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel and on the podcast side. So again, thanks for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Good night, everybody.
And
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
there we go.